Hello, and thank you for joining the Kentucky Heritage Council's tutorial on how to photo document a historic property for the purpose of applying for a rehabilitation tax credit. This video will demonstrate how to adequately photograph a site, organize and label the photos, and how to key those photos to a hand-drawn floor plan. This tutorial is supplemental to our step-by-step application guide, which is geared towards first-time users of the Rehabilitation Tax Credit Program. If you are unfamiliar with the tax credit programs, we advise that you watch our step-by-step tutorial first and visit our website, heritage.ky.gov, for more information on the state and federal rehabilitation tax credit programs. As a quick reminder, the Rehabilitation Tax Credit consists of a three-part application process, whereas comprehensive photos of the property before rehabilitation and after rehabilitation must be provided for a project to be reviewed and processed. Photos must be indicated on a photo key plan for the Heritage Council and National Park Service reviewers to orient themselves in and around the property when reviewing the photos. Applications that are not accompanied with photographs and photo key plans will not be able to be accepted. Photos must adequately document the entire property, inside and outside, regardless of the scope of work. A photo key plan indicates where each of these photos were taken, in and around the structure. A photo key plan is required for all projects, regardless of the scope of work. Complex projects that already have architectural plans being prepared due to the scope of work being proposed will likely use computer-aided design software to create the photo key plan. However, simple projects that do not require architectural plans for the scope of work can provide simplistic photo key plans that can be created by the applicant. This tutorial will show how the do-it-yourself applicant can photograph and create a photo key plan for their property when architectural plans are not needed. Let's begin. First and foremost, we want to give a big thank you to Parker and Osvaldo for allowing us to use their property as a case study and example to assist other applicants in the photo documentation process. The property used for this demonstration is known as the Ziegler Residence, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright and located in Frankfort, Kentucky. The Ziegler Residence is approximately 3,000 square feet with 4 bedrooms and a detached garage. We photographed the entire property in 1 hour, organized and labeled the photos in a photo form in 3 hours, and created the photo key plans in less than 1 hour. So the photo documentation for this property took approximately 5 hours and will be submitted with the Part 1 and Part 2 Rehabilitation Tax Credit applications. Each property will have its own timeline and photography challenges, so you should allow yourself plenty of time to compile the necessary pieces of your application prior to your planned submittal. When documenting a property for a historic tax credit application, you should begin on the exterior, starting with the front facade and working your way around the property. It does not matter which direction you progress around the building, so long as each facade of each building is adequately documented. A good rule of thumb is 1 straight-on photo and 2 angled photos of each side of the building, as illustrated in the videos on the left side of the screen. If a building sits close to its neighbor, you may not be able to capture a straight-on photo, and in those instances, angled photos from the property's corners will suffice, as shown in the top right video. Some helpful tips to be aware of and remember as you begin is to try to take photographs horizontally or in landscape mode whenever possible. This makes it much easier and quicker to insert photos into the prepared photo form later, which we will demonstrate momentarily. Next, you must remember where you took each photo for creating the photo key plan, and you should generally know what work is being proposed so you're aware of what detail photos will be needed to show specific features that are proposing to undergo change that may be difficult to see in the general room photos. Lastly, in order to be the most efficient with your photos, try to capture 3 surface areas in each of your general photos. For example, if you take an interior photo that shows the ceilings, walls, and flooring in a single photo, it will reduce the number of detail photos you'll need to provide. In the example on the right, we would need additional photos to be submitted, showing the ceiling and flooring material in that room, whereas the photo on the left shows all three surfaces. In another example of this exterior photo shows the roofline, walls, and visible foundation. Photographing close enough to see the property's features and materials, but far enough to have three surfaces in the frame, is a way for applicants to be efficient in their photos and time when documenting their property. Applicants must use their judgment as to how many photographs adequately tell the story of their unique building. Large or complex projects often require more photographs to illustrate the various elements and areas of the building and site. If the building is a unique shape and contains angles that are not visible in straight-on photos, additional angled photos may be necessary, as demonstrated in the bottom left video, and deteriorated areas should be photographed in detail, as shown in the top right. If there are additional structural features on the property, regardless of their age or historic status, they must be shown on a site plan and photographed. A site plan can be drawn or pulled from Google Maps aerial views, as long as it accurately depicts the location and quantity of the site structures. In all cases, applicants must include photos that fully document the exterior and the interior of the building under review and its site, environment, and supporting structures. Once the exterior is fully photographed, the interior of a property must also be documented, regardless of the scope of work. Just like the exterior, it's a good rule of thumb to take a minimum of 2 photos of each space, taken from opposing angles. Additional photos of architectural features and areas that will undergo change may also be necessary, so the proposed changes that are described in the Part 2 application can be supported with visual references. If you're taking after photos, be sure to take detailed photos of the areas that were altered. It's always best to take your after photos from the same location as the before photos whenever possible. Common issues that should be avoided include photos that are too dark, blurry, or have a granular quality, photos that are too zoomed in and don't allow us to see the full space, or so zoomed out that we can't see the building. Another common mistake is taking photos with draperies or furniture obscuring features from view. We do not expect rooms to be free of furniture and personal items. However, we must be able to clearly see the ceiling, walls, flooring, and features of the property, which could include woodwork, fireplaces, and windows, just to name a few examples. If photos are not clear, comprehensive, and visually descriptive, the project's review will be placed on hold for the photos to be retaken, and the project cannot be processed until adequate photo documentation is provided. As mentioned, historic features should be included and unobscured in your general photos, but your property may also require detailed photos if alterations to special features are being proposed. In this example, the fireplace grout and historic wood windows are going to be cleaned and repaired, so detailed photos of these areas are being included on the left to substantiate and provide context for the need to repair. In addition to historic features, it's equally important to illustrate any non-historic areas that are proposed to undergo significant change, to illustrate that the property's historic character will not be adversely impacted by the changes proposed. The 2 images in the bottom right are showing rooms that do not contain historic materials or features, and these photos will support the application's proposal to alter these rooms. When non-historic areas are proposed to undergo change, we do not require the new work to restore or match lost features, but rather we look for the new work to be compatible with the property's historic character that remains. Once the entire property has been photographed on the exterior and at each interior level, you'll need to get these photos organized and labeled into a single document for the tax credit submittal. We've created a photo form to assist applicants in organizing and labeling their photos so that they can meet the submission requirements for state and federal tax credit applications. The prepared photo form is formatted so that photos inherently meet the requirements when applicants use and fill out this form. However, it's worth noting that applicants do not need to use the Heritage Council's prepared photo form, and applicants may make their own photo form or compile their images in their own application, so long as the photo requirements listed on the screen are still met. Our photo form is meant to be helpful, but if you find it easier to create your own photo form, you are welcome to do so. The prepared photo form that the Heritage Council has created is located on the Heritage Council's tax credit website under Application and Forms. The photo form is located a little ways down under the Photo Forms heading and is a PowerPoint document. We've also made the template into a format that can be uploaded into Google Slides for those that do not have access to PowerPoint. Neither of our photo forms have been formatted for mobile or tablet device use. All photo forms, whether applicants choose to use the PowerPoint version, the Google Slides version, or create their own, must be saved as a PDF prior to submittal to our application portal. The next portion of our video will demonstrate how to download the photo form and fill in the necessary components. We will start with demonstrating how to download and utilize the Google Slide version, and will then show how to use the PowerPoint version. It's worth noting that if you have access to PowerPoint, the PowerPoint version of the photo form is typically more user-friendly. We'll begin with the Google Slides version for applicants that do not have access to PowerPoint and wish to use our photo form template. For Google Slides, you'll need to click and download the second photo form option labeled Photo Form for Google Slides. Then you'll need to open Google Drive. You'll need to have a Google account to open Google Drive, which is free to create if you do not already have one. Once you have the form downloaded and Google Drive open, you will click New in the upper left-hand corner and select File Upload. You'll select the photo form to upload, and it will either automatically appear or you will click on its uploaded icon, which typically pops up in the lower right-hand corner as shown on the screen. Now that you have the file uploaded into Google Slides, the first page will provide you with helpful instructions on filling out the form and adding additional photo pages. Please review the first page carefully and follow the instructions before proceeding. We're going to pause here and show applicants that are using the PowerPoint version of the photo form how to get to this step, and then we will proceed with further instructions on adding text, photos, and labels. For those that have PowerPoint, you'll download the first photo form from our website and open it in your PowerPoint's desktop application. It's important that the file is open in PowerPoint's desktop application, as this template has not been formatted for the web version. When the form opens, it will look like this, with important instructions listed on the first page. Please begin by reviewing the instructions and filling out your identifying information at the top of the first page. Once you have the first page read and filled in, you may start with photo page 1. You'll be able to add additional photo pages by going to the top of your PowerPoint's menu ribbon and selecting the Insert tab. You'll select New Slide, and photo pages can be inserted in this way. Instructions on how to do this are also included at the bottom of page 1 of the photo form. Be sure to save this form somewhere that will be easy to find later, and always keep a copy of your photo forms for your own records. At the top of each photo page, you'll type the property address and indicate which application this photo form is associated with. You can fill the check boxes by selecting the Insert tab's shape function and adding black boxes to the appropriate check boxes, as demonstrated here shortly. To add a photo, you simply click on the photo text and select the photo you wish to upload. This will also be illustrated shortly. As you work on your photo form, I highly recommend that you save frequently to avoid any frustrating losses if you run into any issues that may unexpectedly cause your application to close. Some helpful tips to remember to set yourself up for success is to have your photos in a horizontal or landscape orientation before you begin. Even if a photo is portrait or vertical, it's easiest to rotate and save the image before it's uploaded into the photo form. Once you've uploaded an image into the photo form, you cannot manipulate or rotate it without affecting other elements of the form. It's best to have all your exterior photos in the form first, and then your interior photos, following a progressional order, such as all of the first floor, then the second floor, and lastly, the basement. A helpful piece of advice that I'd recommend is that you wait to add your photo numbers until after all of your photos have been inserted in the form. That way, if you need to rearrange your photo pages as shown here, it will not disrupt the sequence of your numbers. You can drag photo pages to rearrange them, or if you wish to change a single photo, you can always right-click on an image, select Change Picture, and you can select your new photo to swap it out. You can edit any label that contains the stock word text just by clicking on it. Another helpful trick to save you some time for repetitive data is to copy and paste standard information, such as the property address at the top of the page. You can right-click on the text box that contains the property address and copy and paste it to other pages as shown here. This can help reduce the redundancy of retyping your address at the top of every page, which is a requirement for photo submittals. As previously mentioned, I highly recommend that you save frequently. The photo description area that is below each photo is not a substitute for the Part 2 description of rehabilitation application. Rather, this area is a space for you to briefly describe what we are looking at, where we are on the property, and to provide context for the photo's contents. In this example, the photos are showing the deteriorated condition of the exterior wood trim that was repaired prior to the Part 2 application being submitted. It's always best practice to submit your application before work begins, and projects that are submitted for work that is already underway is done at the applicant's own risk. Projects that have already begun work must provide current photos of the property in addition to the before rehabilitation photos. In this example, the upper photo shows the before condition and the lower photo shows the current condition with the wood repaired and repainted. The photo description helps provide context for the project's timeline, but is only considered supplementary and is not a substitute for the Part 2 application's detailed description. Once you have all the photos uploaded into the photo form and they've been labeled with the property's address, a photo number, and a photo description, we now need to identify where each photo was taken. This is done by keying your photo numbers to a plan of your building. We refer to this as the photo key plan. So first and foremost, what is a plan? Simply put, a floor plan shows where fixed elements such as walls are located within your building. A floor plan gives a bird's eye view as if the roof has been taken off and you're looking down into your rooms. If your property has multiple floors, there will be a floor plan for each level. Simple projects that do not require architectural plans for the scope of work do not require professionally drawn photo key plans. Of course, professionally drawn plans will always be accepted if you'd rather hire out that scope. But for the purpose of this tutorial, we will now demonstrate how an applicant with no prior experience can draw a photo key plan for their tax credit application. Photo key plans do not have to be overly detailed and may be hand-drawn, created in PowerPoint, or built using computer-aided design software. There are several free floor plan programs available online if you wish to check them out, but most of our do-it-yourself applicants choose to hand-draw their floor plans, as shown here. Most properties have a basic square or rectangular plan at their core, with rooms inside and projecting outward from that core shape. Each property is different, so there will not be one way or a right way to draw a plan for every property. So long as the exterior walls, the approximate location of interior walls, and room names are indicated, we should be able to interpret your photo key plan. Some helpful tips are listed on the screen, including tracing your first floor plan to make subsequent levels if that is helpful to you. Once you have the floor plans created, you'll refer to your photo form and start labeling where each photo was taken. We refer to each photo symbol on the plan as its photo key. Each photo key should have the photo's number, be located where the picture was taken, and have a directional symbol that indicates where the camera was pointed. It's usually easiest to key the exterior photos and then the interior photos in the same order as your photo form, as demonstrated here. You'll do this for every floor, progressing through your photo form's photo numbers until you've documented every photo. Here are some hand-drawn examples of photo key plans that have been submitted for tax credit review. Notice that each plan contains varying degrees of detail, but all have walls, photo numbers, and directional arrows, and are all accepted for photo key plans for simple tax credit projects. If you're more comfortable on a computer than at a piece of paper, we've seen applicants use PowerPoint, Word, and other readily available computer programs to draw their photo key plans. We've demonstrated here how you might do this using PowerPoint. Remember, no matter what method you choose to create your photo key plans, they must be labeled, generally show the location of walls, and contain directional keys for each photo. Photo keys are simply denoting the location of photos. These are not substitutes for architectural plans if construction documents are required for the scopes that you're proposing as part of your tax credit application. To avoid having to make photo key plans multiple times, once for the before photos that are submitted with Part 1 and Part 2 applications, and then again for after photos, which are submitted with the Part 3 application, you can simply make sure that you take all of your after photos from the same location and angles as your before photos. This way, your after photos will align with your before photos, and you will not need to create a new photo key plan for the Part 3 submittal. If your after photos are taken from different vantage points than your before photos, a new photo key plan will be required, showing where those after photos were taken. Now that we have the photos taken, organized and labeled within a photo form, and keyed to a photo key plan, you'll now need to save and upload your photo documentation materials to our application portal. Make sure that you are saving your photo form often and your photo key plan if it's been made electronically. Once you have the photo form and photo key plans completed, you'll need to save both of them as a PDF. If you hand drew your photo key plans, please either scan the document in or take a very high quality image of the plans so that your drawings are available electronically. If a photo is not clear enough for us to view and interpret your photo key plan, then it must be scanned in. Please try your best to name the files using our naming guide, which is shown on the screen here and provided on our website under the application portal link. The naming requirements is required by the National Park Service, and it helps expedite our understanding of your submittals and the review of your project if forms are named correctly. Please only submit photos with application forms, or if you already have a tax credit application on file with the Kentucky Heritage Council. Photos that are received in our application portal that are not associated with a current project or are not accompanied by a tax credit application will not be stored, and you will need to resubmit the photos once you have your application forms prepared. Now that we've gone over the rules for photo documentation, we will briefly address some exemptions to those rules. There are two unique scenarios where photographing every single room may not be required for a rehabilitation tax credit. The first exception is for large-scale projects, usually institutional or hospitality uses, where there are identical repeating floors with the same finishes and features on each level. Example of these may be schools, hospitals, hotels, and office towers. In these cases, fully documenting one of the repeating levels will likely suffice in providing representational photos for all the other identical floors. It's worth noting that a project of this scale will likely be undertaken by someone familiar with the Rehabilitation Tax Credit program and will have architectural plans associated with the project scope. For those advanced users of the program, we highly recommend checking out the National Park Service's webinar, Advanced Training for Frequent Program Users, which goes over nuanced information for complex projects, including photo documentation requirements for large, complex institutional uses. The next unique scenario and exception to the rule is for condominium owners. Condominium owners may apply for the state rehabilitation tax credit either as individuals for their specific unit or as a collective for shared building maintenance, rehabilitation, and repair. In either case for condominiums, the exterior of the building must always be fully documented, as well as all common areas, including lobbies, stairs, corridors, elevators, and ancillary spaces that are considered common property amongst the owners. If there is work taking place in a specific unit, that condo must also be fully documented. However, we do not require every condominium to be fully documented if that condo is not part of the rehabilitation tax credit application and there is no work taking place within the condo unit. Other than these two unique scenarios, properties should be fully photographed on the interior and exterior, regardless of the scope of work. A good rule of thumb is 2 photos taken from opposing angles with 3 surfaces in view to fully show the building's finishes, architectural features, and volume. Thank you for watching this tutorial on the photo documentation process for rehabilitation tax credit applications, and we hope that you found it helpful. Our goal is that you are able to walk away feeling knowledgeable about what is required, how to photograph a property, how to organize and label photos into a photo form, and how to make photo key plans without any prior experience. The Kentucky Heritage Council is the state's historic preservation office, and we're here to help answer questions and provide resources on historic and heritage preservation. You can find out more about our agency and the Kentucky Rehabilitation Tax Credit Program by visiting our website, heritage.ky.gov. If you have any questions or would like to get in touch with a member of our tax credit team, you may do so by emailing khc.taxcredits@ky.gov. Thank you and have a great one.